G'day team, Phil Britton here from Martial Arts Business Success. I'm here joined with Graham as always, and also the one and only for our third podcast with Kyoshi Dave Kovar. Welcome again.
Nice to be here, guys.
Awesome. Well, we've been diving real deep with some great strategies and mindsets and experience from somebody who's been in the industry for many years. And, I thought what better way than to kick off today's podcast would be like, if I had my time again, like what would I do? Step one. Mr. Kovar, sir.
All right. So first and foremost, I think if I was starting a martial arts school over, right, if that's what I decided I'd want to do, which I would decide, right? I mean, I look back and I think of all the mistakes, but I'm not disappointed with the decision I made to be a full-time martial arts professional.
Yeah, sure.
That's first and foremost. I mean, I think it's just important to understand what a freaking great impact we make on our community. Yeah. We get to do what we love. So that part I wouldn't change at all. I think first and foremost is that I think wherever you are, you kind of acknowledge and accept where you are in a particular place. So that would be, okay, and that would be the decision that, yes, I want to do this. So that would be the first step. And then the second thing would be, I think it would be really important, what I wished I would have done different is that I kind of signed on like, okay, I'm not really going to ever make any money doing this, but this is what I love, and that's not, I'm going to be the starving artist kind of mentality. You know what I'm saying? And, I'm just not, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to, and so I think the step two is, cultivate the belief that your best years are in front of you, that you can really do this and make this work, right? Yeah. I mean, I think it's so easy to talk about back in the day stories, etc., right? And so that would be the next kind of, I think, step. And then step three would be to have a real clear vision as to where you want to go, right? And so that's what I don't think I did. As a matter of fact, interesting, I went to a Zig Ziglar seminar, and this would have been in the early 80s, and I was struggling, and I remember writing down and he had this. It's the first time I really heard of goal setting concept, right? And it was create a vision of where you want to be. And I wrote down and they described this school. I remember them saying, "Don't even think if you can believe it. It doesn't matter if you can believe it or not. Just write it down." So I remember going, "Oh man," And I described a school of a couple hundred students. But to me at the time, in full time, it was like, well, we've so blown past that, it's unbelievable. But the point is that first, that was really a stretch for me, right? And so I think that's the next step, is to be really clear, as to what. Now, you all know you're going to deviate from the plan you set. It's not ever going to, but at least you have a plan to deviate from. Okay, and then there's a couple other things that, first off, is make sure who you're taking your cues from. You actually get a coach out of the gate, right? Somebody that's going to kind of help mentor you, so you don't take the wrong turns. Yeah. And here's something that took me forever to figure out: get a really good accountant.
Yes.
Right, and don't try to cheat on taxes or all that kind of stuff. Just do it friggin' the right way and legal out of the gate, right? Because every time you kind of short the system, it just gets complicated. It's not a clean business, right? Establish credit early on. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. This is, of course, only applies to martial arts schools, not other people, right? But and then on top of that, get your expenses in line. How many times have you seen someone that has a successful school, and what they do, or they started to experience success, they went out and got a new car, a bigger school, more rent. And here's another thing: is bigger isn't better when it comes to square footage. You guys are in this school right now; it's a pretty good sized school.
Yeah, it's great school.
And we have big schools, and we have small schools, right? And bigger isn't better; it's just bigger. And so a lot of times guys go for it because their ego wants the biggest school. I've done that. I go, "Oh, look at this building; it'll be so cool." And when my friends come, they're going to go, "Wow!" Forget that crap. You have to write the rent check every month, right? So you find an A area, but you don't necessarily need an A location. In my mind, as long as the area is good, the demographics good, it doesn't have to be super visible. If it is, great. It is great. Yeah. But we're a destination business. How many people actually, it's word of mouth. Yes. It's so you're going to find a great area, but it doesn't have to be on Main Street, necessarily. If you have it, great.
I was just going to ask, do you have a certain things that you look for? I know that we do when we look for an area.
Yes.
What about yourself? What do you guys do? If you were going to find a brand new area, what are some of the key factors?
First off, our market, know your market, and our market is kids and their parents. Yep. Okay. So we're going to go for upper middle class income. Okay. High level of kids, high percentage of kids under 12. And so that's the first thing. We're not even going to, that's the area we're going to do. Then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to obviously look for a location. For us, you guys use meters. I can a couple thousand square feet. You know, I'd kind of a normal size school, 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. You know, in a normal size location, not anything really big, unless the rent is so easily in line. But usually you can't have it both ways. You're usually not going to get a prime space, prime corner, have a big space and low rent. That's pretty hard to get. You know, so I'll like I said, best area possible. If I'm going to a prime space, it's going to be a little smaller, or I'm going to go to a B location that might be a little bigger. But you guys know you have a big school. You know how long it takes to friggin' clean this place? You know what I'm saying? It's like you forget. And one time when you have one location, man, you know, did not. So that would be. I'd strongly look at that. So that's the demographic we look for. And of course parking, ample parking. But that's one you can adjust as well, right? You know, you can go with. And then bookkeeper. Another thing is find yourself a really good attorney. Make sure that when you're signing leases, you don't have your buddy Bob look at it. You know, I have guys that I coach that call me that want me to look at their leases. Like, hey, I'm not a friggin' attorney. You know, I can give you. I've looked at a lot of leases. I've negotiated a lot of deals. My business partner, Dave Chamberlain, is an amazing in lease negotiation. So I feel pretty comfortable that I can help people. But don't make me look at the small print. Don't put that. You know, get a good attorney that can look at that. And so someone that you can call. Then make sure out of the gate when you hire people, you do background checks with them, right? You know, and you get good people, and then be really clear. Here's the deal: when you like what your culture is going to be in your school, what the protocol is going to be in school, what the rules are, because when you try to adjust a school and make it's here and you bring it here, it's really hard. Okay. So you know, if you're going to have them bow on the mat in a certain place, and they're going to call the instructor a certain thing, and they're going to put his shoes in a certain area. The clearer you can make that out of the gate, the better off. So be really clear on what your culture is going to be. And I don't care what your protocol level. There's different, you know, like you see, we're pretty casual. You know what I'm saying? And there's a time when I'm Kyoshi and there's a time that I'm Dave, you know, and I don't really care either way personally, but I get for us, there's a certain amount of that's important, you know, but so be real clear on what that is.
What about, Dave, you know, I guess everyone has a different way of getting into business. And we've seen a lot of models where people either start in halls or they have a part-time school with a full-time job and they're making that jump, or do they go all in and burn the bridges? I mean, I know we've done different areas ourselves. Would you have a recommendation?
I think those are all really good methods. If you go all in and burn bridges, you better be really well capitalized, right? Because here's what happened. I was talking to a guy about this subject last night. It's right there. He's got his part-time school, full-time job, wants to go full-time. How much savings does he have? Zero, right? Don't do it, man. Because what's going to happen is you are going to start desperate. And desperation gives off a different vibe, and it's not a good vibe. When I try to enroll you and I need to pay the rent, and I've been there, you've got to. There's a certain amount of franticness and energy it's going to make you. It's going to repel you. Right. And so like if you're going to do all in, that's great, but have 6 months worth of living expenses for your business and personal life. So be really well capitalized. The other methods look great. You know, full-time job, part-time school till you build it up and you can make the transition. You put money in the way. Halls are a great way to go into a community to test the waters in the community. That's you know, that's tried and true.
David, what advice do you have to any of the listeners or even the guys watching this on the video when they've got a good, solid school and they're looking to expand? You know, moving into multiple locations or whatnot.
Shouldn't we?
This is my advice. If someone has one school that's having success that wants to think about doing a second school, turn and run. Seriously. So I'm not saying don't ever do it, but go into it with your eyes open, because here's the deal. Rarely, and you guys know this, rarely does that second school offer twice the income. Here's what happens. You work twice as hard, you make half the income for quite a while. Eventually, if you have the right team in place. So if you're going to open up a second location, here's the 4 things you need. Okay. First off, you have to have disposition and the willingness to do it, first and foremost. Secondly, you have to be capitalized to do it. Okay. Third, you have to get a friggin' great lease. And number 4, you have to be, most important, you have to have a team in place. And see what people do. Let's say you and I are partners. And we say, hey, let's open up a second location. You know, or you work that one, I'll work this one. Something happens. It doesn't work. So what one person's got to be able to do is take themselves completely out of the equation. So really, if you have one school and you're in the trenches, you want to have two, you got to pull yourself out of either school.
Yes.
Because, you can't, otherwise you're running back and forth and you're covering, and next thing you know, your active count drops 10% here, and it may go, and you're spinning your wheels. So if you do decide to go, like I've talked a lot of guys out of doing a second location. They said, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. I tried. And then, and a couple, and sometimes it works. Hey, who are we to say? We all have one. But I've had several times where people go, holy crap, never mind. Boom, back to one, and happy they did it, and never going to enter that market. So it takes the right person. But I think here's what's important, is that sometimes we think if we're successful, the next step is we have to open up a second school to be successful. And that's quite frankly not the case. It's really about the quality of living that you want.
It's great.
I think does that come down to, like you said, big picture, know where you want to be,
Totally.
and
absolutely.
scale to that.
Yes, absolutely.
And then when you get there, smell the roses, enjoy
it. Completely.
I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, because quality of life, when you've got kids or families, or you're starting that out and whatnot, if you've got multiple schools going on at any given moment, it's more of a headache, more time involved in it, more management of staff and running it, and to stop and smell the roses isn't always as frequent as you may like.
Yeah.
So
I've got a question for you, Dave. We're a very personality-driven business. People will come to your school because of you. I don't know, when we first started our business, we plastered our names everywhere. It was the Phil and Graham show. But then that limited our ability to step out and work on our business.
Right.
So, again, have you had your time again? Would you make it the Dave Kovar show? Would you?
So it's interesting because the name of our school was originally not Kovar's, right?
Yeah.
Originally I was Self-Defense School Karate, then I changed to Twin Dragons. And what had happened is I had a couple different locations, teaching out of my garage for a while in a health club, and so I'd been all over town. And when I finally got us the center, which is actually across the street from where we are right now, I wanted everybody to know that, hey, it was me that had this school. So I said, I'm going to call it Kovar's Karate Center, right? And that was my intention there. Now, we made an attempt to switch away from that to Satori Academy, which is kind of our subtitle. But it really never kind of kept. It's kind of like we've been in business a really long time. We've got, I'd like to think, a good reputation in the area. But it is limiting when you use your name. I'd like to think I didn't do it out of ego purposes. I did it like, who knows, maybe that was the reason. But I don't think there's a downside to having it named after you, except if you're the guy and then you want to step out, it's harder to have somebody else do it.
So I guess going on that, in that sort of naming your business, but what about being a front man on the floor? I guess
I think there's a time. I think there's a time in your involvement that you have to do that because you have to have a product. You have to you have to get the trenches and build the student body. So the key thing is to have a peaceful evolution. When you want to step out, here's the first thing you got to have is you got to have someone that can friggin' do the job. Because a lot of people, I'm going to have my second-hand command do it, and he's only mediocre. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have the right guy that can step in, and then let's assume you've trained the right guy and he has what it takes. Like as you go to some of our schools, you'll see we got the right guys in place. They know what they're doing, right? And I'm not teaching the classes. Which I remember the first time I turned over. The last time I turned over all my classes was about 7-8 years ago. I turned over my black belt classes at this location to one of my instructors, and I'd take that off the floor with everything else. But I was convinced that these guys, if I wasn't teaching black belt class, I would just quit. And so it's like, so I turned over the classes to him, and about a month later, he said, hey man, I'm going on vacation next week. Could you cover my classes? And I go, sure. And I was looking forward to it, right? And I was thinking, everybody's going to miss me so much. And I hope there's someone that's still coming to class. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So I left when there was like 28 people in the average. I show up, there's like 40 black belts in the class, and they're all asking where the other sensei is. That's when I knew I trained him well. It was kind of hard on the ego though, right? But so I think it's really important you have the right guy. And then what you do is you ease yourself out of the equation. Nothing you guys don't know. You start out by the guy does the warm up, and then he's doing a little bit more, and then slowly you take yourself off. Right? We call it peaceful evolution versus bloody revolution.
Look, as always, some brilliant gems there. Thank you so much for sharing it. I guess the big takeaway I'm getting there is this clarity. Really getting clear with where you want to be and what you want to do, the lifestyle you want to live. Because don't try to be something that you think you should be. Be true to yourself and understand what type of lifestyle do you want to live as a martial arts business person, and what legacy do you want to leave for your team and your family as well too. So great stuff as always. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
And can't wait to see you guys on the next podcast.
Excellent, guys. Well, look, just to give you guys a cap, this was number 3 of our podcast recording. So if you haven't caught the other 2, go back Listen to them. They're amazing. Go back and check that out. And then stay tuned for the fourth and final one with Kyoshi Dave Kovar. Take care, gang. Bye.